Hey everyone, today we're looking through 10 weak iridescent killer add-ons that need a change. We already looked at some of the really bad ones. Today we're looking at the less, but still pretty awful ones, and suggesting some changes, because I had fun with the first video. Let's get into it. First off, we have the Iridescent Seal of Metatron for Pyramid Head. This add-on will reveal the auras of all tormented survivors for 6 seconds when you send someone to a cage. This is pretty dreadful, maybe more so than his other iridescent add-on even. This is just one of those add-ons that simply won't come into play that often, largely because it relies on survivors being tormented, which can only be done by having them step into the trails you place into the ground. This being particularly hard on larger maps. The idea behind this one isn't too bad, I just think it simply doesn't provide enough information to warrant being iridescent. It's also somewhat counterproductive, because each time you send a tormented survivor to a cage to get this info, they're no longer tormented. So the next you send, you'll have one less reveal, unless you torment that person again. Simple idea for a change for this one. When sending a survivor to a Cage of Atonement, the auras of all survivors are revealed for 6 seconds. If a survivor is tormented, their aura is revealed for 12 seconds. This would be a solid and powerful information add-on, rewarding the application of torment, and further punishing those who are tormented with the longer aura. Next up we have the Shattered Stars badge for the Nemesis. This is an add-on I really like the concept of, but it simply does not deserve the iridescent status. This add-on increases zombie movement speed by 150% for 60 seconds after a gen is completed. I really like this effect. The main issue with it isn't so much the effect itself, but more so the inconsistency of the zombies just tanking this effect. This would work well as maybe a green, or even a purple to be honest, but the inconsistency of the zombies makes it far too random for it to be iridescent. This then stacks on top of the inconsistency of when generators are going to pop, and further, that this ability only activates up to 5 times. The main effect of the increased zombie movement speed, I would argue, is the potential for them to push survivors off of gens far quicker. Typically they only get hits if they're enclosed tightly in loops, so the extra speed isn't really getting you hits, it's just applying better pressure, and giving a little more information. I would honestly like to see this add-on become less rare, and have a new iridescent entirely. Here's my idea. Survivors within 16 meters of a zombie are revealed with an aura. This effect lingers after leaving this range for 4 seconds. Essentially you could have 2 roaming radars, walking around identifying survivor locations. I think that could be really cool, and would still hinge on luck, but the effect would be strong enough I think to even out this inconsistency. Maybe it could have the activation requirement of a gen popping, and then it stays active for 60 seconds. A bit like the current S.T.A.R.S badge. Something like that. Next up we're going to cover both of Hillbilly's add-ons, Apex Muffler and Iridescent Brick. Now the reason why I'm not a fan of these two add-ons is partly because they aren't very good, but also partly because their effects are far too similar. I like iridescent add-ons that change up your playstyle, but it's kind of a shame that both of Billy's change it up in basically the same way. Apex Muffler will make the chainsaw silent for everyone outside of your terror radius. Iridescent Brick will make you undetectable after chainsaw sprinting for 2 seconds. Out of these, the Brick is definitely the weaker of the two. On some maps you can't even really activate it, or there are too many obstacles to activate it. These add-ons I feel were pretty much meant to go together, to create a really stealthy combo. So one idea straight up to make these two better would be merging their two effects together into a single add-on, with a new second one being created. That way you have a powerful stealth-based iridescent, and then another one focused more so on aggressive loot play. Here's the idea for that one. Your chainsaw no longer overheats, decreases charge time of the chainsaw by 10%, increases chainsaw movement speed by 10%. Basically a loop-based Billy add-on, focused on quick chainsaw revs and loot plays, somewhat bringing back his old version with feathering and such, although nerfed comparatively. Next up we have the nurse add-on Matchbox. Matchbox reduces your available blinks by 1, which already by by the way, is just a straight up nerf. The bonus it gives you is a 0.35 meters per second increase to movement speed. This still makes you 0.4 meters per second slower than the base movement speed of 4.6 meters per second. This is the worst trade-off anyone could ever do, possibly ever, for Nurse. I would argue the Spasmodic Breath, which is like a gimmick add-on, is more effective than this one. It's pretty obvious, I feel, that removing a blink charge from Nurse is bad for her, restricting her movement a ton, and essentially just stunting her power. I could see this add-on be more so a green or something. I do think it has viability, but I would still argue not enough for it to be iridescent. As someone who isn't great as Nurse, this add-on just makes it harder to play her, to be honest. Nurse is hard to suggest iridescent add-ons for, because she already breaks the game in many ways. One change to Matchbox would be to make Nurse a 4.6 meters per second killer, with just one blink. That might be an interesting trade-off. Another idea would be to do something entirely different. This is an idea inspired from a Reddit post I read on Nurse's add-ons. As it's called the Matchbox, and matches burn stuff, potentially this add-on could burn anything you blink through. Here's the idea. When blinking through a pallet or breakable wall, they are destroyed. When blinking through a window, the window is blocked for 8 seconds. When blinking past a generator, survivors working on it will scream. Alright. You can go bully me in the comments for that one. Moving on to Fuming Mix Tape for the Legion. This add-on reveals the progress of generators through auras on a white to red gradient when you're in Feral Frenzy. This isn't actually that bad. It's more just that a lot of the time, your killer instinct is enough to cover the generators that are potentially being worked on. It helps, but it doesn't help enough, I don't think, to warrant it being iridescent. It kind of works on Wraith with his version, as his stealth pairs well, and in general he's cloaked more often than Legion is in Feral Frenzy. However, Fuming Mix Tape can definitely be strong, allowing you to see gen progress from the other side of the map. I think largely though, your focus is elsewhere. When in Feral Frenzy, you'll typically pop it when you have a target, and go from there based on killer instinct. Again, it's certainly helpful, and far from being the worst iridescent in the game, but still, it isn't good enough to be iridescent. It doesn't bring enough to the table that Legion can't already do. My change to this is going to be really weird, but I think it's a cool idea. It's meant to make the add-on into more of a movement-based and map pressure iridescent. Feral Frenzy is now 6.2 meters per second instead of 5.2 meters per second. Feral Frenzy lasts indefinitely until a survivor is hit, you are stunned, or it is deactivated, where it then begins its regular countdown. Basically, this could be used for map traversal and allow you to essentially never waste Frenzy. Maybe that's a little too strong, I'm not sure. Iridescent Family Crest is an add-on for the Oni. I've been avoiding talking about this add-on because I secretly really like it. It does by no means deserve the spot of an iridescent though. This add-on will make survivors in a 24 meter range scream when a demon strike attack is missed, when in Blood Fury. This can be used as an information tool, and a general scare tool whilst in Blood Fury. It isn't good, largely because the idea is you shouldn't really be missing attacks with Demon Strike, nor should you need information on a target, as you should activate it when you know at least the general location of a survivor. This add-on can pretty safely be replaced by Infectious Fright, which is a whole lot more effective. I do really like the scream aspect of this add-on, and I think it would be really fun to incorporate that still. Here's the idea. When entering Blood Fury, all survivors scream, revealing their location. While in Blood Fury, if a survivor is hit by a demon strike, all survivors will scream. Missed attacks will cause survivors in your terror radius to scream. Lots of screams and information basically, making Blood Fury kind of terrifying, which is kind of what an iridescent should do in my opinion. Alright, moving on to the remote control for Sadako. This add-on will reveal the auras of survivors carrying a VHS tape within 16 meters of a TV for 7 seconds. This is mostly bad because of how weak Condemned is currently. At most, a survivor will probably only need to move a VHS once or twice a trial when facing Sadako to reduce their Condemned. I think when I played with the remote control, I got one reveal using this add-on. If you want this kind of info, you're better off just running the Mother's Comb or something. Even that isn't good really. My new idea for an iridescent is a super immersed one, with focus on Condemned. Each trial, a single VHS can be acquired between all survivors. Each time the VHS is moved to a new location, it will remain there until it is retrieved. Only one survivor can hold this tape at any given time. When it is being held, the Condemned status progresses as usual, but also progresses the Condemned status of all survivors, at a 50% slower rate. Basically a super stressful add-on that requires a team to juggle a single tape between them, prioritizing those who are closest to death, to move the tape and lower their Condemned. That would be so scary to face, I feel. Next up we have Iridescent Pendant for the twins. This applies the exposed status effect onto survivors who kick Victor while he is idle for 45 seconds. The main issue with this, I think, is that typically Victor isn't really just idle and standing there, at least that much of the time. Ideally he's on someone, and if he is left, you're gaining info from him with Killer Instinct. I got one good use out of this add-on. It was at the very end of the game, where I left Victor at the exit gates. So when the survivors went to leave, they kicked him, and I got an insta-down. That was about it though, and that is extremely circumstantial. The one other time I was fairly close to the person who kicked him, they just ran away and pre-dropped everything. I ended up chasing them for too long, trying to hit them as Charlotte, when I would have been better off just using Victor. So I think this add-on is largely just not useful in most situations. If Victor is idle and then he gets kicked, the survivors probably have a fairly substantial head start on you as Charlotte, and I feel it just simply isn't worth it. I want to play into the flavor text of this one. It's a quote from their mother, and reads, "Your binding is no curse, my loves. It is your strength to draw upon. So here's my change." After downing a survivor who has Victor latched onto them, all other survivors become exposed for 45 seconds. During this time, you cannot unleash Victor, so you tag team someone, and then you get a powerful state with everyone else exposed. But during this time, you cannot remove Victor. Next up we have Throes Compilation for the Trickster. This will reload all of your knives after exiting the main event ability. This is another one of those add-ons that is actually quite nice to have, but is by no means deserving of iridescent quality. Main event generally only gets activated 2 or 3 times a game. The amount of time this instant reload from Throes saves you, on the whole, is very little. The point of this add-on, I think, is meant to make you into an unstoppable knife barrage, where you empty your knives, enter main event, then throw even more. With main event's 30-second activation window though, this doesn't always come in useful, or applicable even. Main event can already come into play in unpreferable times, and this add-on just plays up to the random nature of this ability. My change to this would be kind of a similar time reduction, but at more useful and frequent moments, rewarding you and giving you the chance to get chain downs. Here's the idea. After downing a survivor, you automatically receive 22 knives. These knives can overflow the base limit of 44. Alright, well, that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and be sure to drop your own thoughts on these changes, and your own ideas too, down below. Thanks, and goodbye.